And good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. So talk to the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Reutebuch. Coach, thanks for being here this morning. Let's talk a little bit about last night's game as the Wawasee Warriors traveled down to Tiger Field, down to Fisher Field to take on the Warsaw Tigers.
Yeah, we ran into a meat grinder. Warsaw's first in the conference right now, and I believe they have 12 shutout quarters in a row. Their defense is playing real well, much improved, and they're really good at running their offense.
We were amazed by how many weapons they have.
Yeah, they had their backup fullback in. Mm-hmm. Their number one fullback is a big kid, real big kid, a load to bring down, and they had their backup. And he is fast. He's a little dude. He's hard to find, and he hits the hole hard, and he's through it fast. And we had a hard time adjusting to that to start off with. They're good. They're good and efficient. And you take one thing away, and they go to the next thing. And it's it's like clockwork. And we knew what we were up against, and we knew we'd have to play well to compete, and that's probably the one thing I'm disappointed in is we didn't compete a little bit better. We took that opening kickoff and had a decent return and hit a big play right off the bat, and we're moving the ball, and we got to a fourth down situation, and we didn't convert, and it was like we hung our heads, and that's exactly what we've been talking about all season. We got to quit doing that, and next play mentality, but instead they drive the ball all the way down. And then kickoff, we had a replacement in there. No fault to his. He's a replacement. He's not the starter. And we had a little bit too much of a gap, and they saw it, and they executed a perfect onside kick. I mean, the kid could do it 20 times, and it wouldn't be more perfect than what he did. And they were able to recover it, and then it was on. They march right down again. We go a 3 and out. They march right down again, and before you know it, it's 28-0 in the first quarter, and pretty much game over. Challenge kids at halftime to come out and compete and forget the score and fight and hang in there and try to work to get better and those kind of things. And I think in some areas we did. We did find some things that we liked defensively that, we're probably going to use against Mishawaka because we're going to run into the same exact thing next week. They run their flex bone just a little bit different. They emphasize different things, but it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, Bart was at Mishawaka. These are his former coaches. Keith Kinder's the head coach, and he was his one of his coaches underneath him. So we're going to face the same exact thing. Mishawaka is going to have some big linemen, and they're going to be well coached, and we're going to have to rise to the occasion. And after a big win against Plymouth, we were hoping we'd have some positive flow going into this game, and I think to start the game we did. But as they rolled up a couple on us, as we knew they could, and we talked about all week, we got to stay away from that. We can't let if they drive down on us, we can't let them get momentum and just keep piling on. And the onside kick is something they did last year, and we talked about it. And we still, I guess 15 to 18-year-old boys, they forget things. And so, sometimes that happens. And you try to keep them positive and keep grinding. And we do have some kids out there that are doing that. And we just got to get more people on board with that.
Coach, one of the things I was saying, Bill and I were talking about this on there all night, their deceptive offensive ability.
Especially the reserve unit. I couldn't believe how deceptive the reserve unit was.
I've taught the flex bone. We did it here when Josh Ekovich was here, and it's about reads and giving you the idea that we're doing one thing and we're going to pull it and we're going to do another thing. You got motion one way and you bring a guy back another way. It's stretching your horizontal and if you get too involved in the run game, they'll go right over the top, as evidence with the touchdown pass to Julius Jones. He was wide open. There's nobody. Somebody in the parking lot was probably closer than any of our guys. So it is tough. It is something that, we see. We went against Fairfield this summer. They run the flex bone and, get our kids used to that a little bit. Plymouth, Did run a version of Flexbone until they came here. Then they spread it out, and they still ran a little Flexbone, but it wasn't nearly the same. And so we know going into Warsaw and Mishawaka that it's two teams that's what they do. They do it all the way through, and they do it well, and they just plug in new guys there, and they got good athletes, and they know what they're doing. And if you don't play your responsibility, it's responsibility football. If you try to do somebody else's job or you don't do your job, it's not going to end well for you.
Coach,
Yeah.
I was looking at that. Bill and I were watching that touchdown pass from Brown to Ringler. I mean, I didn't think he had a chance for it. He was really covered well. He jumped higher than the guy. Have you seen that on replay 100 times yet?
Yeah, I saw it in person too. Yeah,
yeah, in person too.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great. I mean, on the positive side, that was a great reception.
Yeah, that's something that Lucas can bring to the table, and that's why we've moved him around.
Yeah.
We know he can make plays like that. And we went into the game just like we do every game with two quarterbacks, and we play the hot hand. And we talked about if we become stagnant, if we're not able to move the football, then we got to make a change. We got to do something. And it's not that Lucas isn't doing his job. It's just maybe we need to move him somewhere else so he can be more effective and we can use other weapons. So, it was nice to have that last drive. It was a time-consuming drive, and it ended in a score, so that was a positive. Lucas is a good player, and he does a lot for us. And, any way we can get him the ball in his hands in the open field is something that we want to try to do.
And he did not do a bad job. I didn't think of quarterback last night. I mean, he tried to throw the ball. Several balls were dropped. He did a good job of deciding whether to run or whether to throw the ball.
He really did make most of the right decisions, the right reads, where you're supposed to go. We didn't make a change because he wasn't doing his job. We made a change to try to get the ball downfield and get it into his hands. So as well as some other guys, and so
he also had a great night defensively.
Yes, he did. He saved us a couple times, and that's something that we're going to really have to work on. Defensive line, we were way too high.
Now, what the common listener may not know what you mean by that.
Their offense is predicated by their linemen in a 4-point stance, and they shoot out as low as they possibly can, and they'll either cut you or they'll try to drive through you and get underneath your pads. And we preached all week. Mike Casey worked with our defensive line, and we talked to him all week that hey, you got to stay low. You got to stay low. And
the whole point there is then that whoever you're going against can't get any traction, so they can't move off the block.
That's right, and they can't get to your linebackers. And if you stand up and you get pushed back, then they can not only block you, but they can also get to your linebackers. And we did that poorly in the first half. Second half, we started submarining where our guys would actually take out their offensive linemen, and it worked a lot better for us. We were able to stop the fullback dive a lot better, a lot more consistent. They hit some other plays. They go on to the next thing. So, option pitch or toss or pass down the field, those are the kind of things that they have an answer for. So, we just got to do a better job of understanding what's being taught during the week and apply that to when we play the game. And, you try to simulate their offense in practice, but, your guys who don't run the offense and are not the starters on defense, they're trying to run an offense that's all they do all summer long.
And it's a highly technical. It's one of those few high school programs or type of offenses that you see progress all year long, and it's measurable progress.
You want to play those teams early in the season because they have their timing's off, and they have a lot of turnovers and things like that. And unfortunately, we get both those teams game 7 and 8 of the regular season, and so by that time they're pretty finely tuned. The one thing that does happen is they do have injuries in that offense too, because it's very, very physical and very grinding and things like that. And evidence last night, they had a fullback out, but with their numbers, they just plug in a new kid, and he brings different skills to the table.
Bill and I talked about that numbers. I mean, holy cow! He and I, when they were coming out of the tunnel there, or whatever you want to call it, we could not count that many that fast. I mean, they've got a tremendous crew, and I know when you got subs that can come in, and the talent is pretty well spread out. I mean, they just don't have one guy that can.
What the
run
one
the ball.
thing is that numbers brings to you is competition.
Yeah.
You get competition at every position.
Yes.
Yes,
I can relate to that.
And I'm not saying anything bad about our kids. We have some great kids.
They work hard.
The kids that we have, they work hard. But if you got to fight for your spot, and you got 4 guys behind you that want that spot too, we're going to get the best out of you. And that's what we're trying to create in a lot of positions is competition to bring the best out of each kid. And a lot of times that works well, but when you don't have that many, you're not going to have that. And so sometimes a kid, if he's not being pushed by somebody and not being replaced, he gets a little stagnant. And so for Warsaw, the great thing for them is that they have depth, and they have, their 2s want to be 1s, and their JVs want to be 2s, and so on and so forth. And, let's be honest, it's a huge school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6A. Give me a break.
It's a 6A, and it's, you take about 3 Wawasees and put it into Warsaw. But, we never make that an issue. They can only put 11 on the field. It's our 11. It's their 11. But, when our guys are playing special teams, defense, and offense, as the game goes on, and it's a physical game, it wears you down. So it's just something that we know what it is, and we're not the only team that is in that situation. Plymouth often has the same issue. Goshen, Northwood. They don't have the gigantic numbers that they have, and so we can't use that as an excuse. We just got to execute better.
So, Coach, who are you going to bring in for guests here on the Coach Jon Reutebuch Show?
We have Clayton Cook, a former player and coach, and we also have Nate Larson, captain on our team and a senior.
Those folks are coming up next here on the Coach Jon Reutebuch Show on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Program with the head football coach of the Wabasee Warriors, Coach Jon Reutebuch. Coach, why don't you introduce our guest?
Today we have Clayton Cook. He's a former Wabasee football player and current coach. He coaches our JV right now, works with our corners and our receivers. And Clayton, welcome. Tell us about your journey at Wabasee High School and college, and then to here. Go ahead and just kind of give us a little background on where you've been and where you're at now.
All right. Well, sorry about that. Starting my sophomore year was the first taste of the varsity field. Played, all 3 years after that. We had, I'm pretty sure, winning season every year. That first one kind of was a little tricky at the beginning between the Concord and Plymouth games that were.
Got it rolling late in the season.
Got it rolling late, and that's when we replayed Concord later in the sectionals. But I think my junior year is when I got the call from Ball State, sending me out there to Muncie for my first semester, and I transferred over to Indiana University to run track after that, and I got one more semester left. COVID's kind of changed a little bit of the college scene, so I was kind of waiting until it cleared back up to get my final semester in.
And then as far as your coaching, why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into it and some of your experiences there.
Yeah, it's funny I just mentioned COVID because it's kind of how I guess was able to stay in the area. So this is my second year coaching, and the first year I was pursuing a different job opportunity, and when COVID hit, nothing was open, and I couldn't get the proper tests completed, and ended up staying in the area and thought might as well help out.
Yeah.
And
And you also help out in another sport, coaching as well.
Yep. Track and field in the spring.
And you've
good.
done that for 2 years as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be.
And what do you coach in track?
I'm sprinters, jumpers, and hurdlers.
And sprinting and hurdling is a lot of what you did in high school, right?
Yep. State champ my senior year.
In the
110 hurdles.
110 hurdles. That's right. Wow.
Clayton, tell us a little bit about what receivers and DB coach does that's different than maybe what the other coaches do. Obviously, you're working with different kids, but what is it that you do that's different?
I'd say it's a lot of a higher paced sort of getting in as much as we can, as opposed to a lot of fundamental work, because we got to work on their hands for one, just being able to catch the ball, but also they have a lot of footwork that needs to be done. And
now, I think that might surprise some people that there's a lot of footwork in what you're describing. Why is that? What is it that footwork is for? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the more that you keep your feet moving, the more you can change direction quickly.
Okay.
And you want to keep the defender on their toes. And the more of a threat you are, both vertically and laterally, you can really change up anything that you're doing, and like I said, keep the defenders on your toes.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by footwork? Maybe that would be a better way to go at it.
So things like different routes. There are pretty quick hitters that are just like one sticks or a couple
one
of
stick.
The one hard step and
Okay.
cutting in a different direction.
Okay.
As opposed to different routes that you want to hit it, at full speed, but then break all the way down so that you can change, a complete different direction.
And do you do that by, counting steps, or do you do that by knowing how far? How do you know when to do that?
What I like to try and tell the guys is, yes, you're given a route, but you really want to run your route on the defender. So you're playing the defender, not necessarily the route, so that you can change your direction and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just throw them off as much as possible.
How does that affect the relationship between the receiver and the quarterback? I would think, and I never played football. I walked with a cane; they wouldn't let me. But when I played basketball with crutches, Coach Szynal used to pull me off the court. But anyway, and that's a true story, actually. How does that change the relationship between the quarterback and the receiver? I would think that you would want that to be as consistent in distance as possible. But what you're saying is that midway between there's a variable that you've got to adjust for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it at that point it's a lot of timing that's involved.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So does that change the angle that the receiver's got to come back at? What does that do?
It usually shouldn't change that much.
Okay.
It's really just a very minor difference to get the defender to look the other way, or think you're going one way and kind of breaking them off to.
So we're not
create
talking about
space.
something that's 2 yards of difference. We're talking about something that may be imperceptible in distance, but is actually something that the defender may be looking for or not looking for, that causes them to react differently all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I see. All right.
The more that you make the defender think, the more time that you have to, create space.
Mm-hmm.
And there's deception involved. I mean,
sure.
You want to run a short route, you want them thinking you're going long. If you want to go inside, you're going to want them to think you're going outside. And your footwork and get their hips turned so they're going the wrong direction, or get their head turned, catch them peeking in the backfield, that kind of thing. And then he has to flip it around for the DBs. Make sure you don't do this. So teaching them, a lot of kids are the same position. Not all, but a lot of them. They play receiver and they play DB.
Right.
And so you can use one to help you with the other. And so, he teaches them routes and hard sticks, one direction, and then you're coming back another. Passing, sometimes some routes, some plays are based on timing, and others are based on positioning, where you're at and where the ball's going to go to that open space. And if the corner does this, then we're throwing it to this guy. If the corner does this, then we're throwing it to that guy. And so you have both situations when you're coaching receivers. And then for DBs, we have different types of coverages. And, change of direction is huge for receivers and corners, more than it would be for linemen. Probably even a little more than running back and linebacker. And so wide receivers and DBs are constantly changing direction. They got to have great hips, and they got to have some speed, closing speed when they do make a mistake. And, he's got to work the hands too, get your hands on the ball. Then you got to work on tackling and stock blocking. So there's a whole lot to it than, just running routes. And,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so he's got his hands full all the time. He's very busy.
What do you think's the most challenging thing about coaching DBs and receivers? What's the hardest thing to get them to either realize or do or something like that?
I think currently right now is getting them to keep the ball off their shoulder pads. That's our biggest problem.
Catch with your hands.
Yeah.
And then wrap it up and go.
Yeah.
Very good.
Clayton also coaches a JV and talk about that experience, so what you like about it and those kind of things.
What I like about it is we kind of already have the template of plays that we run, so I can just pull from those. But there's also a kind of freedom in being able to improvise and kind of figure out something on the fly. Yeah.
Anybody who's ever coached JV on a Saturday morning, you don't know who you're going to have, because it's fluid. We may have had to use somebody you were thinking you were having, or they don't have enough quarters. So you get to be creative, and that's fun, right?
Yeah. Yep. And
what do you do for the JV?
Oh, for the JV, I run the offense.
There you go.
I call the plays and trying to figure out where to put people.
Yeah. I remember when I coached JV, you'd have to improvise because of the personnel you have. And, there was one time we had no running backs. And so we went 5 wide and we threw the whole game. And you really get creative, and you really, have to figure things out. You got to put together special teams. You got your varsity special teams, and some of those guys might be backups. Some of those guys might even be starters, but you got a hodgepodge. And so you start your day off with, okay, who do I have?
Yeah.
And then you plug them into how can we put them in positions to give us a competitive chance and to go out there and have fun with it too. And, some of the most fun that you have is on Saturday mornings. It's just something different about with those kids. They're eager to learn. They're getting their chance to play. They need to develop, and you get to be creative. And that's kind of how you cut your teeth as a coach. You figure things out and learn to overcome problems and things like that. And so when you get to the big time, the varsity field, you have a better idea of what you're doing and ready to adjust things on the fly when they happen, because they do happen.
Clayton, I was just wondering, tell us a little bit about your future. I mean, I remember talking to your mom and watching you play, and Bill and I called the games, and then I was really surprised when you left Ball State and went to IU to do track. Give me just a little bit about that, and then now with all this different stuff you're doing, what do you think you're going to wind up doing?
Well,
excuse me, you can't take Coach Reutebuch's job yet, but that.
Yeah. I'd say it's pretty early to tell kind of what the actual future is going to look like. But in the near future, I'm looking to move kind of out of state. I haven't really been out of the hometown for too long, so I'm looking to kind of broaden the experiences and stuff like that. But when you said that you were surprised about the switch from Ball State to IU, really the main The main thing was I love football, but I missed track a little bit, so I tried to go. Ball State doesn't have a men's track team since I don't even know.
Ago.
Yeah, so that was one thing I was kind of hoping to get to a school where I could possibly do both.
But what are you looking to do? What's your major in? What are you looking to do coming out of school?
So I'm majoring in psychology, and it's really the subject. It's I don't know. It's kind of a tough question.
It's interesting to you. What kind of careers normally come out of that kind of major? Where do those folks usually end up?
Usually in a counseling or a clinical sort of spot. I'm not trying to go the whole medical kind of side.
Okay.
I'm thinking more of maybe consulting with
something where you can be more of a deep thinker and think
trying
about
to figure out people
before you speak, knowing what you're going to say and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's not like Bill or I. We don't think at all.
We don't think at all. We just run our mouth.
We need people like you
I spent 40
desperately.
years just running my mouth. It's worked great so far.
All right. Well, Clayton, we're glad to have you back. Clayton, is an athlete that went to Wawasee, and anytime we can bring back a former Wawasee athlete, and with the success that Clayton had, Clayton was all conference, all state, won the state in hurdles, and was kind of a jack of all trades your senior year. Start off your sophomore year, you and Gage Reinhardt had to plug in because of some injuries, and we kind of got things turned around a little bit. They were the young sophomores, and we got young sophomores right now that are trying to plug in and make a difference. And so, Clayton's been through that as a player. And then as he got older, we started making him play other positions like safety and punter and things like that. So return man, of course. And so he's seen a lot of different parts as a player, and he's young and relates well to the younger kids. And he brings a valuable piece to our coaching staff.
Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it, Coach. When we come back, we'll be talking to
Nathan Larson.
Coming up next here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com with the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Reutebuch. Coach, who's our next guest?
Today we have Nate Larson. He's senior captain, plays Fox for us, which is an outside linebacker position. Has kind of been a jack of all trades on offense. We have him at running back and at slot receiver. Try to put him in positions where we can get him the ball and have him on the field offensively as much as possible. And then Nate also plays a lot of spots on special teams. Unfortunately, we don't have as many guys as we would like, and so he's got to plug away on there, and he doesn't ever hardly come off the field. So he does a lot for us, and he's in great shape. He works hard and, gives us his best effort. And good to have you here, Nate. Talk a little bit about last night's game and how you saw it as a player.
Well, definitely coming into the game last night, knew it was going to be a dogfight right off the bat. Warsaw's a great team, run the ball, very physical, and we were definitely going to have to reach that physicality point to stay in that game. And off the start, I definitely thought we were there for a little bit, staying in the game. We were stopping them, everything. We had some good plays on offense, and, they had a couple good plays, and we were in there for a little bit, but I just felt like overall it's a little more physical than what they were than what we were.
It's really hard for us to simulate that in practice, isn't it? When we have our scout team, we're making plays, and coaches, I know I, for one, often during the week was saying, defensive linemen, you can't be that high. You can't be that high. It may work on scout team, but these guys are not going to, if you go high on them, you're going to have a problem. And I think it took us a little while to figure that out, don't you?
Oh, yeah, it's a big jump going from scout team to going out on Friday night, way more physical. And also, you know, a lot of our guys on our team play both sides of the ball compared to them where, you know, they can go in for a couple plays or whatever and one side of the ball where they have a lot more energy, where we have to face a lot more adversity playing both sides of the ball all night long.
Sure, absolutely. You had a pretty good. I'm going back one game too because I wish I would have brought you in after the Plymouth game because you had a pretty exciting game there, scoring 2 touchdowns, the vital one, the one that really put us ahead. You know, talk about that experience in the Plymouth game, and then we'll get back to Warsaw a little bit.
Yeah, you know, that was a great game. You know.
Homecoming.
Oh, yeah, great way to finish off the week going through all that stuff we had. And it just felt great, you know, getting a win, putting through all that work all summer long, all year, just to finally get what, you know, you're working for, a win at the end of Friday night. And it just felt great. You know, I felt like we were a team. We were getting things together, moving the ball, and it's just I loved it. It makes you have the reason why you want to play football.
Yeah. Nate, you just said something that I want you to touch on just briefly. Tell us, those of us who are extremely old and don't remember well, think of football as something that runs from the 1st of August to somewhere around Thanksgiving. That's not the way it is for you anymore. Talk about your commitment to football and how much of the year you spend committed to football, doing football stuff.
Oh, I'm all year round, me personally. In the winter, you know, I went up to a place in Fort Wayne and was training all the time. And then we also here in the winter, I was training with Coach O, and we were doing stuff. And then spring, we had it again. And then right when summer hit, boom, we were going every morning, all the time. And it's all year round for me. You know, football, you got to be committed at the high school level, especially for varsity.
Your football training in Fort Wayne, that's a special football program, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of guys from Fort Wayne that do it, people at high levels, and it was something for me that I really liked because it got to compete with people at like Division I level and stuff like that. And it was definitely a great experience for me doing it over the winter.
Very good.
Yeah, you won't find many guys as committed to his craft as Nate. Nate's always looking to try to get an edge. You know, going over to Fort Wayne, you know, he wants that. He wants to get better. He wants to challenge himself because he knows in the NLC you're going to face some of the best competition around. You know, you're going to go against some of the better teams in the state, and you know, there's only one school smaller than us, so we're going to be facing teams that are bigger than us, and they're going to have more guys, and you know, he knows what that takes. And Nate, I believe you have aspirations to take your football to the next level, don't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna try in this off season. We'll see what happens. You know, you never know, but my goal is to play college football right now.
Have you talked to anybody yet? Anybody looking at you that you know of?
Yeah, I got a couple of schools talking to me. I have like one Division I school and a couple D2s, but nothing crazy yet.
Okay.
I haven't committed anywhere or done anything like that.
Yeah,
Right.
that really picks up after the season's over.
Well, I can understand that. You would, as a coach, you wouldn't want that going on during the season.
There's rules on what they can do, and so you know, after the season's over, and there'll be a lot of coaches, you know, going around checking out what's out there and what they can do, and they'll have videos, video highlights. You know, each one of these guys that have aspirations to go college, they put together a highlight reel and then make it public so those college teams can get in and see those. They'll call me. They'll ask me, you know, what kind of guy is this guy? You know, first thing they're going to ask me is what's his grades like? You know, is he going to make it?
Can he make it?
Yes. Can he get in?
Yeah.
And can he make it in the college life? And then what kind of player is he? You know, is he coachable? You know, what is his attitude and you know, so on and so forth. What kind of leader is he and those things. And so that's step 2. And then they reach out to these guys and they'll bring them on campus and they'll talk to them, or they'll come visit with them and say, you know, feel out where they're at and things like that. So Nate has definitely a chance to play football wherever you know, he wants to, probably, as far as, you know, a certain level. Division I, it's a different world. Holy cow! I mean, if you've ever been to a game where you've been down on the field with some of those guys, I mean,
unbelievable.
You know, what's the percentage? You know, 2% of high school athletes go on to play Division I, and 1% go on from college to the pros, and so, you know, that's a big tall order. But there is really, really, really good football that's not Division I, and people don't realize there's guys that pop up in the NFL that have come out of those programs, and so some people don't realize how good a football. You got Trine, you got St. Francis, you got Manchester, you got a lot of schools in this area, and then Ohio and Michigan and Illinois that play really good football. You got MAC schools, you got schools that are Indiana State, Missouri Valley, and things like that. We got Braden Johnson playing at Indiana State. That's a high level.
Sure it is.
He's playing, big time programs and playing against high competition, and I think that's something Nate could do too if he wants to do that. And I know he has the work ethic. He works very hard to get where he's at. So,
Nate, talk about the difficulties presented to you having to go both ways, because you play them at the linebacker spot most of the night. You're out there pounding away on the linebacker spot, and then the offense comes, and you're either in the slot or in that halfback role. Talk about how difficult that is for you, and what you do to prepare for that. That's different, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like there's a lot of people on our team that do it, and a lot of people on other teams that don't do it. So it's definitely more difficult. You have to be in shape for sure. Definitely got to do a lot of extra running because, we're out there all game long, all night long, practicing all week and getting prepared. You definitely have to be ready. And it's a big jump. There's a lot of people that are like, it'd be third down. They're like, all right, let's get this one and get out. We're done. We can take a break. But for me, we get it. I'm right back. I'm right on the field now. It's time to move the ball.
Yep.
So it's definitely just, I just buckle down and just play the game, play what I love.
And to prepare for that, you said a lot of running, like long distance running?
No more just like physicality and practice. We just go hard and practice all week and just everything we do. Because, if you're on everything, you're doing everything in practice, If you're on starting O, well, then I'm out there on starting O going hard, and then I go to starting D. So it's just I'm on more in practice, so then I'm in better shape for Friday night.
Is there any challenge for you going, because you spend a lot of time at the slot receiver, and then you move over and you spend a lot of time, I said halfback is more like fullback, when you're lined up right next to the quarterback in a situation. Any difference for you? Any challenge in going from one to the other?
Not really. My freshman year I played wide receiver, and then I started playing running back my sophomore year. And, first game getting switched over, it just took me a minute to start learning the plays a little better. But overall, I just kind of get used to it and just play wherever they need me to play, honestly.
Yeah, that's a great example, willing to plug in wherever he needs to.
Nate, you have any long-range goals? I mean, where do you think you want to go to college, and what are you going to major in, and anything like that you could you've been thinking about lately?
Yeah, I want to. No matter if I go to college for football or if I don't go at all, if I don't go for football, I still plan on going to college and majoring in business. Not 100% sure what I want to do when I get older, but something in that range, maybe take over my dad's company or start my own business. But yeah, for sure, definitely, I've been thinking about stuff like that.
Xavier has a great business school. No, I just thought so. Don't you got to, except they don't have football anymore. But so
we can take you to the Kellogg School of Management up at Northwestern too.
Right? Yeah, he went to Northwestern.
Yeah, Kelly School of Business.
Yeah, I think that can happen.
Nate, you're a captain. You're a senior. You've been playing football for four high school years. What is your legacy to the younger guys and your example to the younger guys in your leadership position? One, how would you advise those younger guys of, okay, you're a sophomore. What do you need to do to have the best out of your senior year? How do you need? What's the example you want to set and lay your foundation for those guys to follow so they're successful?
Definitely need to be committed. You got to try to keep all the guys in your grade out there. Stay together as a group, overall as a team too, not just for your grade, but definitely need to stay together. And you gotta keep plugging away. You're gonna fight adversity. You might have a bad sophomore year, or you might have a couple bad games here and there. But you gotta stick together. So by the time you're a senior, you have all your dudes in your grade. You have a whole bunch of seniors, and you can just go out there, lead a varsity team with your whole grade that's been fighting for 4 years out here on the varsity field or on the high school field, so you can play varsity football, and you just have those numbers and those dudes out there ready to go.
Yeah. Talk about that, your relationships with your fellow seniors and how that's a special thing for you. Going through 4 years with these guys, and some of these guys you probably played middle school and peewee, and so you spent a lot of time, walking out to the field. I mentioned earlier, talking to Dryden on the way out to the field that, hey, this is you've been going against these guys for several years now. He goes, yeah, I can't believe this is the last time going against Warsaw. And so talk about that a little bit in those relationships.
Yeah, I've been playing with Dryden and Lucas since I was in like second grade, playing a little pee-wee tackle football. And, you got a whole bunch of guys in your grade. And the next thing you know, you'd be in middle school, and just every year, less and less, because, it gets more physical, it gets harder, more commitment. And that's why by the time you're a senior, your numbers are a lot smaller than what they usually are. But that really shows the guys that are really committed and willing to go out there and play football.
Yeah, and there's a bond there, isn't there, that you're going to have for the rest of your life with those guys. Hey, we played high school football. We blood, sweat, and tears the whole way through. We are the guys that went all the way through. We committed all the way through, and we played freshman through senior year. I remember you and Skinny Lucas your freshman year and seeing you guys, and you could almost pinpoint, these guys are going to be players when they get to that level. And we're lucky to have those guys to stay with our program and to work hard through that, and they are setting a good example. We are playing a lot of sophomores. We are playing some juniors that haven't seen the varsity field, and so whatever they can give those guys as an example of work ethic and leadership and sticking together and being a team and having that family bond as a football team is only going to help this program move forward and be more successful.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for coming in and being with us today. When we come back, we're going to talk to Coach Reutebuch about next week's opponent, Mishawaka, here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. So we talk to the head football coach of the Wabasee Warriors, Coach Jon Reutebuch. Coach, out of the frying pan and into the fire, another one of the big flex bone teams in the Northern Lakes Conference this week as we take on Mishawaka. Traditionally, we've always thought of Mishawaka as a school where you spin the chamber and you see what fires. It's been a big play kind of team for a long time. What do you think Mishawaka will bring to the table this week, Coach?
Well, unfortunately, they got their starting quarterback back last night, and they brought it on the Northwood Panthers, 40-20, I believe, was the final score. So, they're back clicking on all cylinders, and their quarterback's a special kid. He was solid last year, and he was solid this year, and unfortunately he got hurt. And he sat out several games, and saw the highlight last night of him scoring a touchdown. So he's back, and so he's somebody that you definitely have to account for. They're big, and again, every team in the NLC is well coached. They're going to execute their offense at the highest level, especially this time of year. And so we got to try to take away and keep them guessing on what we're doing, and try to keep them off balance and don't allow them to move down the field quickly. When they occupy the football, and that's what the flex bone, is kind of designed to do, is occupy the football and just keep pounding on you and pounding on you. And when you get used to something, they're going to come at you with something else. And when you least expect it, boom, they're going to hit you with the play. But it's really keeping your offense off the field, and they're occupying the ball quite a bit. Unfortunately for us, last night we did not, make them do long drives. They had some big plays, and so they scored pretty quickly, and then we're right back at it.
Yeah.
And we don't possess the football and have long drives ourselves. And that was one of the things going in, that we have to get first downs. We have to stay on offense to keep that offense off the field. And once you do that, you have a chance. And, because their drive's going to take a long time usually. And, before you know it, you're in the third quarter. Well, time didn't go fast last night. Time was slow. And
in the first half especially.
Yeah, in the first half. And people watching the game probably don't understand what we're talking about. But when you just have running play and you don't have any stoppages in action, that clock rolls and rolls and rolls. But when you have big plays and you have stoppages in action, whether it's penalties or injuries or all those things, it just seemed like the first half was slow, and probably because they were putting it on us. But That's what you got to do against a flexbone team is you got to occupy the ball, keep the ball out of their offense's hands, and you got to find a way to get them off the field because most flexbone teams, if they're even close, like within 5 yards, they're going to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
So that's an extra down you got to account for. And Warsaw did it early on.
Right.
They went for it on fourth down and got it. And so that's something you got to account for. So we know going into Mishawaka, again, we're going to have to play at a high level, and we're going to have to figure out some things after playing Warsaw that we could apply to Mishawaka and go out there and try to compete at a high level and keep getting better because we got a lot of young kids. We got a lot of guys that are first-year varsity, and they're taking their lumps this year, but down the road, hopefully it'll pay off. And we got some senior guys that are still fighting and plugging away. We're going to be, we got Lucas Ringler and Nate Larson and Dryden Hernandez and Logan Mast and Cheese Spitzmacher, and guys like that are just fighting and clawing, and they've been playing for 4 years, and they want to make the most of their senior year, and they're doing that. And unfortunately, we're just kind of in one of those years where we're in a transition period, and we got a lot of young new faces out there. And against Warsaw, we pretty much had everybody back. We didn't have anybody out, and that's the first time all season we've had that. Plymouth game, we had a couple guys out, but it was the best we had. So we're getting better health-wise, and we're getting better full team-wise, and that helps us do a lot of things. We're just facing some really tough teams right now, and we got to rise to the occasion. And all that time being out, and all that time not gelling together, and all that time where we're mixing and matching the offensive line, and we're mixing and matching what we don't have these two DBs, so these guys got to play. Down the road, that eventually helps you, but as you go through the season, you're taking your lumps. It doesn't look good, but you can actually create that into a positive because you get kids with getting experience,
right?
But
that's next year. That's
down the road.
Something that's here now.
And actually, you want to be peaking at the end of the season. I mean, that's when the tournament is.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so vital when we're playing Warsaw and we're playing Mishawaka. Yeah, they play a unique type of offense, and they're very physical, but every experience helps you get better down the road. And so we don't know who we're going to draw in the sectional, and what we want to do is, we want to be competitive and play hard, and so we can win the games that we're really well matched up with, and finish the season on a good note and go as far as we can go, and then build upon that for next year. And so not only are you looking for improvement within the season, but you're also looking for improvement to help you for next season.
Coach, I was looking, I think you've got some of the nicest, best and hardest working seniors around. They seem to get along well.
I wish we had a whole lot more of them.
And
there's only 8.
But they seem to really make an impact, especially on the underclassmen. And they're going to, if they could come back next year as seniors plus, I know they would.
Yeah. When it finally hits you your senior year that, this is the last time, and we're walking out the field last night, and, I was walking next to Dryden Hernandez, and I said, well, you've had a lot of years of going against these guys. And he goes, yeah, I can't believe it. This will be my last time against Warsaw.
Wow.
And so, it starts to hit those kids, and you can tell. There's no quit in them, and they're fighting and clawing the whole way, and they know what it means and what it's about, and so that example is what you want the younger guys to see, and you never give up, you never surrender. We have the slogan Warrior Grit. Doesn't matter what the weather is, the officials' calls, how many guys that team has, how good they are, what the score is. No excuses. Just go out there and play hard. We're very fortunate to be able to play this great game and learn all the lessons you can learn playing football. And with COVID and all the other things going on, it's a blessing to be out there Friday night. And it didn't go the way we want it to, and the season hasn't gone the way we wanted it to. But you know what? It's still a blessing, and it's still things that we can help improve as individuals. And
you learn a lot. I mean, this
learn
is still a learning situation.
Absolutely.
And you don't realize that till you're my age, which is, close to 100. But, I can look back and see all these things, and it will benefit all these kids down the road. You and I both know that.
Absolutely. And, playing teams like Warsaw and Mishawaka, I mean, that's about as physical as it's going to get. And so if you can compete at a high level against Mishawaka, that's going to pay dividends for you going down the road, because we're talking about some of the better teams in Northern Indiana. I mean, we're talking about solid, teams, and that's why we play in the NLC. We want to play the best competition. And, I told the guys the other night, you got to play the best and in order to beat the best. And so by playing the best, it brings out the best in you. And so that's what we got to make sure we do, is rise the occasion as competitors and say, we're going to bring it to this level. Oftentimes they talk about playing down to a team's level. Well, we need to do it the other way around. We need to play up to the level of some of these teams that they're solid. And you make a mistake, it gets, blown up real fast.
And so all of the things that you've just mentioned really play into Warsaw first, Mishawaka second, late in the season. Now your team is really going to have to do all the things you just said. They're going to have to gel. They're going to have to come together. They're going to have to understand their assignments and stay with those things, particularly with the two teams that are... We talk about football offense being an orchestrated thing. These guys are like the Bolshoi of orchestration.
Yes.
They're really orchestrated.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to lift your game to take on these guys.
Absolutely. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're preaching. And, keep getting better every day.
Coach, what can you give me any specifics about what you're going to do to prepare for the Mishawaka game? And hopefully none of the Mishawaka coaches are listening.
Well, it should look a lot like the Warsaw preparation, I would think.
Very similar. I mean, that's the one positive thing. It's not great that you face two super physical teams back to back. But on the other side of it is the preparation is similar. I mean, you're still preparing for the same type of offense, and you're still doing some of the similar things in training. You gotta train for the cut block. You got to train for staying low, and you got to train for this and that, and so that part is similar. There are going to be things that we got to tweak, things that we did well against Warsaw, things that we did not do well. There are some things that we saw that was successful that we might be able to use against Mishawaka. And so, the message is pretty much the same. And, we go back to the drawing board and look at some of the mistakes that we made and try to improve on that. So, there's no magic plan. Be honest with you, you got to meet physicality and you got to attack. If you sit back and you wait, they got you. Yeah. And so just being aggressive and, implement our plan. And like I said before, we got to be more efficient on offense and occupy the ball a lot more. And we got to get them off the field on third or in some cases fourth down and get the ball back.
And coach, you're home. I mean,
senior night.
Oh, and senior night.
Yes.
That's always going to be a huge
and
positive.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Okay.
It's going to be blackout for our jerseys. So senior night, they're going to wear the black jerseys and, try to send the seniors out on a good note.
Oh, that's great. That's an excellent thing. Senior year for those seniors, they've worked so hard, and you suffer through a lot in football.
Yeah.
I used to say when I was coaching, you have a 100% chance of getting hurt, and it's just a question of how severe you're going to get hurt when you play football.
There's difference between being injured and being hurt.
Right.
And so,
exactly.
Football's a physical game.
Yeah.
You're going to have bumps and bruises and, you're going to have soreness and things, but that's part of the toughness
part of the game.
And working through it. And that's why, football's not for everybody.
Yep, exactly.
And so, it teaches you how to battle through adversity. It teaches you how to battle through when you don't feel your best and things like that. So, that's something that, football, it makes it a great game. Because there's so many lessons mentally, physically that you get from it. And, these seniors that have stuck with it for 4 years, there's not very many of them. I wish we had twice that many, and we'd probably be in a better situation. But the guys that are out there plugging away, we're really proud of them, and they're working hard, and they're making the most of their senior year.
And, when I watch them with Bill and I, when we watch them, they really fight hard, and they really know the game of football.
Well, that's 4 years of playing.
It's 4 years of playing.
We have to have more guys playing 4 years of football. We like it when a kid wants to come out and play football. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example. Dom Holler's a senior, and Dom Holler's a really good athlete, but he's never played football before ever. And so there's a lot of learning going
Oh,
on.
my.
And it's tough because, when Nate Larson's out on the field and he's playing, he's seen a lot of things.
Yep.
He's experienced a lot of things. He what kind of block is coming. He's seen different offenses. He's studied film. He knows what's happening. He knows how to do those. Not only does he know technique and fundamentals, but he also knows how to recognize things before the average person. That gives you a step closer to what you need to do.
Sure it does.
It's
Sure it
huge.
does.
And so one of the things in my program that we need to have is kids playing for 4 years and learning all those lessons. So when it's their time as seniors, they're the most effective. And if we have, instead of having 8, if we have 16 seniors that are like that, and we have, 16 juniors that, have played for 3 years, then you got something going. And that's where we're at right now. We just got low number of seniors. Our numbers in the junior and sophomore class are pretty good. We want to make sure we keep those freshmen out and playing. And, that's a part of building a program.
Yes.
Get your numbers up, get the guys competitive, get them those experiences, make sure they develop on those lower levels so it pays off on Friday nights.
Yep.
Coach, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. It's been great to be here on Coach's Corner. We're hoping you'll be sure to join us on Friday night here at Warrior Field for Blackout Night and Senior Night as the Wabasee Warriors will take on Mishawaka. Friday night, we'll have the game for you here on the radio, but we'd much rather have you in the stands at Warrior Field. Game time right around 7 o'clock. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com, WRWTLP, Syracuse.